Mic check. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So that's fine. Mic check. Mic check. Yeah, that's much better. Okay. Mic check.
Section sale presented by STCU. If we could have you rise, remove your hats for the playing of our national anthem.
Well, good morning. I am so excited to be here, you guys. We've had a couple good years here in the past few that I've been here and sorting through your sheep. The exhibitors are always great to work with. The sheep are always top notch, and you guys put on one heck of a show. So it's fun, and I was so excited to get to call back. And I don't know if you know or not, but I'm actually going to join you for the steer show as well. So we're going to have a lot of fun here the next few days. And I've been really looking forward to this for a long time. We got a tough class to get us started already with a lot of quality. You guys are doing a heck of a job, even just getting these things stuck. But the quality of sheep in your hands, I think, is as good as it's ever been just to get us started in one class. I think it comes down to these two very quickly for me. Ultimately, I landed on the one that I felt like was just a little better in terms of his proportions and way better in terms of his condition today. Love this one to get us started. Big square hip, lots of cheek and shape about him. He handles extremely well up over that top. He's got enough in terms of rib shape. I think he's a little better in terms of his extension, his length of body. Fits me just a little better. He's taller shouldered as we study him here from the side. When we get our hands on him, I think his condition's just way more fresh and way more correct and just appropriate for the sheep that's in our hands. I like that one a good bit. Now, if we're going to change him at all, we're going to bring him up at the base of his chest and smoothen him out about his shoulder just to let him blend into his forerib. Just a nickel better, but boy, that's a good one that packs a lot of punch and puts some good things together. Young lady's got one here in second. I think, if we were to freshen that one up and just kind of take him back probably 30 days in his condition, he'd take a harder run at winning this class because where he's good, he's extremely good. Now, he's a little more compact and just a little shorter back. I'm okay with it. I think that's fine. It makes him all the punchier in terms of body width and just power. He's still very expressive over that top and plenty of cheek and shape from behind. I want to just stretch him out. I want to just freshen him up. Those are the two biggest things I think he needs. He gets just a little out-horsed in terms of length and extension, shoulders forward, and just a little out-horsed in terms of length of body today from flank to flank. So there's the places we've got to change that one to make him more competitive. But boy, two really good ones there to go ahead and get us started. The blue sheep that we've got in third, I'm going to say about the same thing as our second place lamb here. I think this one is extremely good in terms of just sheer power and muscularity. We got to stretch him out, make him taller shouldered, and lean that guy up substantially for him to go ahead and take a harder swing at this class. He's good in terms of his build. He's square hipped, really good in terms of his running gear. I want to make him just a little taller shouldered, jack him up underneath the base of his chest, just a little better to make him more competitive today. A nice, just good complete sheep here for fourth. I thought he was harder handling and fresher to the touch than the next two, or the two that actually beat him. But I don't know if there's just enough power there to compete any higher in this class. He just a little bit, just more two-dimensional compared to them. Now, just sheep alone, if he was the only one out here, we'd never say the word two-dimensional. He's not, but comparatively, that's where he's got to stand. A good, long-bodied, well-balanced one. Like I said, very complete, maybe just not enough of him to move up. Here's one to round out our top five. I think I'm going to call him immature. I think more time on feed, get him a little bloomy or a little chubbier. Maybe let him borrow some of the condition off of a couple of these sheep. We can probably get that one right, okay? Give him a little more rib. Let him come along just a little bit more in terms of his condition. Mass up, and I think that one's a really, really good sheep here. Give him like 2-3 months, and boy, that thing's going to be an absolute hammer for you. I don't know if you got anywhere to take him, but you should think about it. I like that sheep a good bit. I got to tell these guys what ribbons to give them, but great job. Put your hands together for everybody in the class if you would. Okay, we're going to do...
Kootenai-Shoshone County Grown Lambs is Sadie Rose Davidson and Ellie Demers. Guys, I know it was a long day yesterday. Let's hear it for class one. There we go. Class two, Kootenai-Shoshone County Grown Lambs. Sadie Matthews, Kinsley Spurway, Bailey Matthews, John Marshall, Cody Tolman, Libby Huffman, Jackson Collins, and Connor Kirkland. Class 2, Kootenai. Class 3, you should be in the holding area. We need Madison Grace, Laura Lee Chaffee, and Jalen Doty to the holding area. Class 2, we're pleased to welcome back Levi Rickers from Bowling Green, Ohio, who is returning for his third year at North Idaho State Fair. Levi studied animal science at the Ohio State, I always do that wrong, and I catch myself. The Ohio State University, maybe it's because I'm a Cornhusker at heart, and now works for sales at Kalmbach Feeds as the brand manager for Formula and Champion Show Feeds. He and his family also raise competitive show cattle and market goats. Levi has judged livestock shows in 25 states and Canada, including the North American International Livestock Exposition and the Canadian Royal, the American Royal, and the National Western Stock Show. Levi says one of the reasons he enjoys returning to North Idaho is our outstanding livestock, enthusiastic exhibitors, and the beauty of Coeur d'Alene. Please join me in welcoming Levi back to North Idaho State Fair.
All right, guys, we need to keep that enthusiasm up. That's really good. All right, I like it. We've got a couple real good sheep up on top of this class, and it's maybe a little bit more of a complicated decision on which one needs to go ahead and win for us. And I'm just going to be honest about it. Both of them are a little bit too chubby for my likings, but I think underneath that extra condition, I think there's a better sheep inside of this one that's going to go ahead and win for us. And there's not one that's fresher handling, as well built as that sheep. So, we do need to just freshen them up, dial them back a good probably 4 to 6 weeks, and I think we got a really good sheep underneath there. We'll see what it does to them in the lineup. In final drive, if it makes much of a difference. There is a good sheep underneath that extra chub, though. I think we dial that back and we let him be a little skinnier necked and we let him be just a little less waisty about his gut and underline. You then can appreciate a big ribbed, really stout made, super punchy, big cheek sheep that's very well and very well built in terms of his proportion and just construction from the ground up. He's angular where he needs to be. He's shorter about his blade. And for being extra chubby, he still comes up into the base of his chest extremely well. I think one that paints you a really nice outline. You guys are just too good at feeding them, which at some point I can appreciate being a guy that runs a feed company, okay? I like that one a good bit. Here's one in second. Yes, maybe not quite as chubby as our class winner. I'm going to tell you that. He's a little fresher, and by little I say, very, very few percent just less chubby. But I don't know that there's quite as much true mass and shape and definition underneath that condition today. There's not quite as good of construction in terms of his front end. We got to tie that neck up higher up into the top of his shoulder blade, push that breastplate back up into him just a nickel more, and I want to give him just a shot more expression from behind to make that one more competitive. But two very good sheep with just a little extras about him to go ahead and start our class. I think a nice one here in third. I like his length of body. I like his looseness of skeleton when he's out in motion. I think that one gets out and goes extremely well. Love the length and extension he offers there, shoulders forward. I want to perfect that one's hip and hind leg just a nickel more, make him just dead level square there from hooks to pins, and just make him a little more three-dimensional all the way through. He gets just a little more boring right behind his shoulder blade. I want to bust him open, make him bigger and punchier about his rib, and just a nickel more stout and just more three-dimensional about his skeletal spread as he goes away from you. A nice one here to go in fourth. Again, one has just a little more gut and just a little bit to that center body that takes away from his overall look and balance. This one, as we really get him propped up and driving well, he maybe wants to break ever so slightly at his hip and loin. He gets just a little harsher about his flank. For where his underline sits into him, his flank shouldn't be an issue. And just in terms of proportion, it just throws me off just a nickel more. I want to pick that neck up a little higher. But I think once you make some of those minor corrections, I think that's a very good sheep. And all those things are very minor. They just kind of stack up against his favor today. But I think that's a nice one there that has plenty good in terms of his quality today. Going to round out with the ewe lamb here. And this one's very barrel-chested and just big about her center body. I just wish she was as hard-handling and just expressive as she is boomy about that center body, because she's long, she's opened up and round cage, just not as expressive and powerful as what she is, opened up there about her center rib. So there's some things you love about her and some things we got to make some corrections on. That front end construction's not quite right. The back of her neck comes out just a little too far forward. So a couple minor things there to change and critique on her, but I think overall a nice sheep there to round out our top five. Let's put your hands together for a nice class. Nice job.
Receiving purples and coming back from class 2, Cody Tolman and Connor Kirkland. Now entering the ring is class 3, Kootenai Shoshone, Araya Dixon, Madison Grace, Lorelei Chaffee, Jalen Doty, Wiley Solinger, Rylan Carver, Layla Deeds, and Hattie Smith.
I want to make a general statement real quick here. As exhibitors, if you guys would listen for a second, because I want to talk to us as a family here and have a little powwow. There's going to be times that a lot more people walk into this barn. I'm guessing right now we're very low on non-livestock type spectators, okay? But when those people do come in here, we want to show them what we're doing and why we love our livestock and what we're doing. Please, please do not be beating on these livestock while they're out here in the ring. I know what you're trying to do. I want to get them to brace too. I get the frustration. And as a dad of 6, believe me, we've been there. I get it. But when people that don't know what we're doing, especially as we live close to the state of Oregon, come in here and watch us doing what we love. I don't want them to see us just out here beating the crap out of our livestock. So please keep it at a minimum. Anything that we can do to get these livestock bracing without just beating the crap out of them is good for everybody, okay? It's good for the sheep. It's good for the exhibitor. It's a better look for all of us. Please, please keep it at a minimum. Thank you. All right, really good class here. I love these top 2 sheep that we've got out here, and I think it was close. And honestly, you two were a breath of fresh air as you came in because, boy, these 2 sheep win a lot of classes at a lot of shows, as you kind of cover the country and look at a lot of livestock. They're good livestock. This young lady's up front, I think, put so much good together. Progression of width of skeleton is kind of something that comes to mind for me. He's fresh to the touch. He's round about his body shape. He's gorgeous about his chest. He's high about his neck. He's one that's really hard to fault, and he comes with a whole lot of muscle shape and just power about him. I like that. I like that sheep a good bit. You do a heck of a job getting him stuck. You're going to be fun in showmanship, too. Great job. I don't want to take away too much out of our second place sheep because he's awfully good. He's got a lot of muscle shape. He's got a lot of body and rib. And honestly, joint work up, that's a very tight race. It's maybe just as you study him down low, he's got a little bit too much set at that hock. It makes him just a little wonky in motion, just not quite as coordinated as our class winner is when we get him out going. But boy, that's a good sheep. In terms of body shape and underline squareness and power, you got a whole lot of good going on there, sweetie. I like that sheep a good bit. Here's a good sheep in third. Fresh to the touch, fresh about his condition, round about his cage. Maybe not quite as just blown apart and just 3-dimensional as the 2 that beat him out here in this class, but I think that one's extra nice. I think he's really good in terms of his build. Very square, very sound. He's in a bad mood today. I know he's being hard to get shown, but I think that's a good sheep that you've got in your hands. Maybe not even quite to peak yet. That one could probably go a couple months yet and continue getting better and get a little more massive and shapely. That's probably where he gets beat. As we study him here from the side, he doesn't come with as much lower cheek and just power as the 2 that beat him. But I think that one's very, very nice. Another one that's very kind of hard to fault. There's just maybe not enough just manliness and power to him to go ahead and stand up any higher in his class. But you fell into a deep class with a lot of quality. And I could say the same about the next 2 that are going to round out our 5. I think this one's very square up high. He's boomy about his center body, and I like that. He gets just a little flatter there right at the seam of his pants. I want to bust him open. I want to make him just a little stouter and juicier as we study him from the side and from behind, to go ahead and match in proportion like those 2 that go ahead and win our class. He's maybe not quite as fresh touching as our third place sheep. I think that's a very nice one though. And then rounding out one that maybe gets just a little narrower about his forerib. Want to make him rounder about his cage, just a little more busted open, just a little more 3-dimensional up high and at the ground to be more competitive today. Let's put your hands together for a very competitive class. Nice job. Yep. Good job, buddy. All right, good job. Good job.
Average Daily Gain winner. These awards are proudly sponsored by Kootenai Shoshone Farm Bureau, Joe Dobson with Caldwell Banker Shinmeier Realty, and Kootenai Title. The Average Daily Gain recognizes the exhibitors whose nutrition, daily care, and management produce exceptional growth performance. We'd like to give a big round of applause to Hattie Smith, your Average Daily Gain winner. Connor Kirkland, you're needed in the holding area. Connor Kirkland.
If you would, let's put your hands together for all 6 of these exhibitors. I guess the way we're going to do this is we get to make line up the entire final drive, which I think is really cool. I always like doing more than grand and reserve, so once in a while I'll be the guy that makes the top 5 when I'm only supposed to do grand and reserve just because I like to, but we don't have to worry about that today. I'm not fighting anybody. We have a good lineup. This front line I think is exceptional. There's a couple of these second places I think fit the mold as well, for what we're looking for, but at the end of the day, there's one out here that I think puts everything together in just a really proportional, very well-balanced package that even gives us some extras and just some extra look. And I think the tangibles are there when we talk about detail and the way that he's constructed. The way that his neck ties in is so cool. The way he proportions and blends out of the back of his shoulder blade into his forerib. He's cylindrical about his body shape. He's square up high. He's sound and angular where he needs to be. And just one that's really hard to fault. And I think there's a good one there to go ahead and follow and make a good reserve. And then I think a very high quality, respectable top 5. A couple of these get a little chubby on me. I think at the end of the day, we still got to have the substance and shape. So if we've got to have just a little extra chub, as long as they're stout enough to pull it up or pull it off in a class, I think I'm more than fine with having sheep like that out here, and that is the case, excuse me. So put your hands together for everybody real quick one more time. I'm going to show you the way that I like them. Nice job. Yep. Good job. Yep. He'll be next. Yep. Great job, buddy. All right.
Congratulations to all of you two exhibitors, and let's give a big round of applause to all of your community show
some lightweights, and I expect him to see him just a little leaner and just a little greener and immature today. Or at this weight, I think they should be, when they're this size. I like this blue sheep a lot, and the more I look at him, the more I like him. I think there's a lot of quality in this guy, and he's built extremely well in terms of his angles. Big square hip, really three-dimensional. He's opened up and round about his cage. His shoulder blends really well. Proportions right, very sound. I think good. I think for where he's at in terms of his condition, which is right on today. I do want to slim his neck up just a little bit. He gets just a little out proportion there. Once in a while, some will do that to me, but I like this one. To the point where I would dang near throw that one on feed and say, let's do something here in a couple months, because I think there's some really good pieces in that one. I'm going to say the same thing about this one in second. I think if you're getting beat by him today, that's fine if you're a little bit angry, because there's not a whole lot of sheep there. Look at him from the side and tell me that's not a really highly quality built one. In terms of his angles, that one's tall-shouldered, good about his shoulder angle and the way that it blends into his body shape. He's still round about his cage. He's shallow up underneath of his chest. And I think he gets out and goes extremely well. You hold on to that one and feed him for something like Arizona or Denver or something this winter. I think you're going to be glad you own that sheep. He's good, and he's going to continue to get better for quite some time. I don't see any downfall to feeding that one for a few months yet. Buddy, you got a really good one here. I appreciate just overall presentation in him, because you put some good things together and did a nice job getting him ready for the ring. He gets just a little off about his hip and a little off about his shoulder and chest. We got to bring him up into the base of his chest a little better. Here, chase him over here into the corner. The nickel square hooks the pins as you study him from his hips back. He just gets a little rounder and kind of falls off at his pins. You notice it especially in motion, because he kind of tucks those pins up underneath of him and gets up underneath of himself as he goes away from you. Still, good sheep in terms of muscle shape, rib, and body length. I think there's some good pieces there. We just need to make them all coordinate with some better angles and put it together. But boy, you did a nice job getting him ready for the ring today and do a good job showing him. A nice ewe lamb here in fourth, and I think this one just kind of fits next best, in terms of muscle shape and proportionality. Yes, she's got a good level hip. She gets really flat there right off the back there. As you study her in terms of just cheek and expression, want to make her more powerful and give her just a nickel more set there at her hock. To make that one higher quality and more competitive in this particular class. We're going to round out with one that's a little lower shouldered. She's big muscle. That one's three-dimensional. She's huge ribbed, lots of power from behind. Too low shouldered, little too moderate, and just gets a little too quick in terms of her maturity pattern today. But if you like one that's moderate and easy feeding, I think you'll fall in love with that one. Today I need a little bit more size and grow out of her to move up in this class. Great job to these exhibitors. Put your hands together for them. Nice job.
Congratulations.
Good job.
Back out of Class 1 market, Josie Nagel. Now entering the ring, Class 2 market, Seattle Barnaby, Gabby Zentner, Carly McSpadden, Caden Storning, Maren Tolman, Brielle Adams, and Bryson Smith. Again, this is Class 2 market. Class 3, be in the holding area.
Or this one up on top, I like a good bid. I think this blue sheep puts some good things together. Is he just absolutely explosive and super manly about his shape? No, but boy, he proportions so well. I think his build is very high quality. He's angular where he needs to be. He's square up high, and he gets out and goes like an absolute cat out here. I think he's cool. He's shallow up underneath at the base of his chest, and his underline still proportions back. I think that one's just put together extremely well. And I'm not even going to call him light muscled. I'm going to call him slightly immature because I think better days are ahead for that one. You keep feeding on him. He's going to be fun for a long time yet. If you don't want to, let me know. I might know a guy. I like that type of good bet. The one in second, I think, is maybe just a little more here today in terms of maturity. He's maybe even a little bit past there. He's been here for a while. I want to slim him up in his neck, make him a little more youthful looking. I think once we do that, then we're also probably going to shallow him up at the base of his chest and his entire underline because that's where he gets just a little plain and wasty for me, is right down low, right underneath. We stretch him out a nickel more and just really give him a little bit more of a more youthful kind of look, a fresher look, if you will. I think we match that with a fresher handle because he gets just a little extra thick there in terms of his condition over his ribs. You can still appreciate the square hip, the hind leg, and just the expression that he brings out here. He's a heavy muscled critter. There's no question about it. Just a little bit past prime in terms of condition and maturity today. The one in third, honestly, he needed to be third, and I knew that. I looked at him for a little extra while because he's a little hard to read. There's some kind of odd pieces in this one. He's very, very opened up, very wide and three-dimensional up high. He's got a huge hip and a really big pin set. Now, he doesn't quite coordinate quite as well because of it. He wants to get outside of himself as he tracks away from you. He handles just a little off. I'm going to call him dehydrated, honestly. He handles like he's just been maybe off feed or off water a little bit. He's just a little weird in terms of his handle today. Still has some muscle, some roundness, a cage, and I think some quality of build. For as opened up and wide as he is in his skeleton, I need to see just a little more shape and massive touch and just a little more substance there when we get our hands on him. Another good blue sheep here to continue on through our top five. I think one that gets a little off in terms of his hip, and one that's just a little deeper and plainer about his chest, comparatively to the ones that are going to beat him, that is. Out here, just by himself, you'll call him very complete. Those are just the places where he gets outdone in this particular class. Still has some muscle, has some look about him, fairly well balanced. Just a couple minor things there that stack up against him, hip and chest. If we can make those corrections, we're going to move you up a couple places in this class. That's a good one. The ewe-lamb's going to round us out. And I think that one's still good in terms of length of spine. We need to relax her in that spine a little bit. She wants to get just a little off there and just push that spine up. She gets a little off behind her shoulder. We want to rock that shoulder or that neck up higher up into the top of her blade and give her more stoutness and power from behind for that one to be more competitive today. But still, I think some good pieces in terms of roundness of cage and soundness down low. Good things going on. Couple minor things to improve upon. Put your hands together for a nice class if you would. Good job. You're welcome. Good job, buddy.
Now area ready, class 3. Sophia Vickery, Lennon Poole, Haley Smith, Tristan Vickery, Haley Henderson, Piper Henderson, Delcy McSpadden, Lockie Poole, and Brooklyn Fletcher. Class 4, you need to be to the holding area. Class 4 to the holding area.
How you doing? Good. Good. How are you? Good. Good. How are you doing? Good. Good. How are you? Good. How are you? I'm all right. How are you, buddy? Good. I'm good. How you doing? Good. How are you? Pretty good. class to kind of sort because our cookie cutter is a little broken right now. We don't have, a couple on top that just kind of match and blend in proportion that just kind of make a good pair by any means. But I think there's high quality sheep in here. Nonetheless, we just got to work our way through the weeds here a little bit to really figure out how they're all going to sort out. And I think at the end of the day, young man brings me one that balance and proportions a little better than his predecessors here, and one that I think just puts together a nice outline. Now we've got to trim him up in terms of his underline. He gets just a little wasty, a little chubby on me, but I still think for being extra chubby, he still comes into his chest extremely well. And I don't know that he ties as low into the base of his shoulder as much as he's just kind of fighting that showman to wanting to pull out of him a little bit. So I think if we can get him to not act like a butthead, he's going to stick his neck up in the air and kind of get out and go a little better. And I think he's built a little bit better than what he's letting the showman get out of him today. I think in terms of progression of width, he's our man. I think in terms of just a really solid underline, outline, set of running gear, squareness, and power, he's got to be our man for this class. Just want to tone him up a little bit, want to take some of that condition and wastiness out of him, because there's some good sheep in there. We get off to a 3/4 angle, guys, it's game over. He has to be the one, just in terms of body width and proportionality. This blue sheep, there's so much good in him, but he just doesn't have enough sheep to go ahead and beat him. You can go ahead and take him out, bud. This blue sheep is very good. He's really eye-appealing. For me, he comes across as a little bit too much of a super freak. He's kind of harder gutted, a little harder doing. He's harsher about his rib. I want to soften him up, make him more punchy and opened up about his center body. Once we do that and his flank comes into him, probably game over. It's probably going to be a flip-flop, and we're going to put him up on top, but there's a whole lot that we're missing there in terms of center body there. It just makes him look a little too hard, a little too green, a little too juvenile is the word we're going to use, in terms of body shape and even mass. It takes away from how massive he could be. We get him chubby and get playing harder with him. That one can be the one in this class. He's just not there yet today. Another one here in the middle that just gets a little bit to be too much. In terms of condition, I want to pull him way back. He's also just a little shorter, a little tighter spined, a little shorter about his hip, and just doesn't quite proportion as good as we need him to. I want to stretch him out just a nickel more, make him a little shallower up underneath and give him a little more cheek as you study him here from the side. Got a nice one here for fourth, long-bodied, kind of really loose-spined ewe limb that gets out and goes fairly well. I like her in terms of roundness of cage. Her underline's very nice. Not enough rib, not enough power to move up in this class, but I still think one that paints you a nice picture here from the side. Got a good weather here for fifth. Long-bodied, has enough rib shape, runs out of muscle pretty quick. Out of our top five, I think say this is the lightest muscled of our five, but I still think one that has enough in terms of, several other pieces there to make up for it. We're just going to call him very complete. Let's put your hands together for a nice competitive class. Good job.
Coming back from Class 3, Lachlan Gould and London Gould. Also, a big congratulations to our second place average daily gain winner, Brooklyn Fletcher.
But boy, these three up on top, I think, are players. They're good sheep. I love this blue one here, and we could stand out here for a long time. If I wanted to be one of those judges that had to find a critique and be able to criticize every animal out in the ring, we're going to be here for a while for me to find one in this guy. I think he's extremely good. He fits the bill. He's stout. He's punchy. He's powerful. He's big ribbed. But boy, so hard to the touch, so youthful about his front third, shallow about his chest, and gets out and goes like an absolute man. I absolutely love it. I'm here for it. I dig that guy a good bit. I don't want to take too much away from these two because I'll tell you what, they can win other classes. There's no question. I think it's very close between them, and there might be just a nickel more muscle in the one that's third, but a whole lot more freshness and youthfulness in terms of his look and handle about the one that's going to be second today. He's round about his cage. He's long and slim about his neck. It ties nice and high up into the top of his shoulder blade. He's square. He could use just a nickel more in terms of lower cheek. It's not going to take anything away from him, though. That's a good, well-balanced sheep that still just kind of completes the checklist, if you would, of everything we're looking for. You can make him just a nickel more perfect there out of the back of his shoulder going into his spine. It's very, very minute, though. Here's an absolute man and hammer in terms of muscle. This guy's big back and really punchy from behind. He matches it with a big rib. Unfortunately, he's just a little bit too much in terms of condition. I want to tone him up. I want to slim him up about his neck, tie it up just a nickel higher. And if he was the only one out here, we probably wouldn't even mention that. But he gets beat by two that do it just a little bit better there in terms of front end construction. Holy smokes, does this guy have muscle? We showed one like this one all summer and had a lot of fun with him. Just a couple minor things there, but holy smokes, if you like muscle, you might even just land on this one if that is your only priority, because he has a whole lot going on. I think that's a good sheep with a lot of substance and shape. Great job to them for getting him, prepped for the ring. We maybe come down just a notch in terms of power and skeletal width for this one, but I still think he's good in terms of length of body, rib shape, and just a good, youthful look up front. Now, from hips back, I need more sheep there to be more competitive. You've got three absolute horses out here, for muscle, so we need to see just a little more cheek, a little more stoutness of skeleton, and just a little more substance to handle, when I get my hands on this guy. But that one's still very good. In terms of the way he's built and his skeleton, I think it's very, very nice. Young man's got one to round out our top five and just gets out here in an absolute hammer of a class. But I like him in terms of body length and extension up front. He gets just a little more upright on his corners and just needs to be powered up just a nickel more all the way through. Really round about his cage, really long and slinky about his front end. I like it. All right. Put your hands together for a nice top five, guys.
Purple coming back from class 4, Candace Eider, Molly Isaacson, and Lainey Tolman. Now entering the ring is class 5 market. This is our final class of market. We'll roll right into progress following this class. Sophia Zentner, Aubrey Smith, Sawyer Grover, Evelyn Malinsky, and Addie Gronley. Again, class 1 progress, you should be to the holding area.
We can do 3 purples. Yep. 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 All right, guys. I think a really good way to round out our market lamb class is I think this one that wins, I think does so pretty handedly for me. He's so complete, checks the boxes. He's got some power. He's got some rib, just proportions and blends extremely well. He's not a freak in any way, shape, or form. I think he's just such a good piece of livestock. He's hard to put a major hole in. He's angular about his shoulder, beautiful about his chest. He ties back into his flank and underline as good as any sheep probably has today. He gets out and goes like an absolute cat. If I'm going to fault him at all, it's just in the way that he's kind of wanting to pull back out of you. We need to stretch him out. We got to get that dang thing driving to really show himself off. That's a good sheep you got in your hands there, sweetie. I like that one a good bit. The one in second, I think, is a huge muscle sheep, big power sheep. If you like muscle, there's nothing in here that touches him. I'm going to say that he is the heaviest muscled one in this class and one of the stoutest ones of the show, no doubt. We get off to the side of him. He gets just a little off. He's a little shorter and rounder about his hip. From chine to chest, he is the deepest about him of our top 3 and the longest about his blade. It throws that look and balance and proportionality off just a little bit too much, but where he's good, he's extremely good. I love how round he is out of the back of his shoulder blade, tying into his forerib. He's so punchy there. I wish we could bring him up into that chest just a little shallower and just lengthen and square up that hip ever so slightly and keep it there, while he's out motoring. That's still an extremely good sheep. I think it's highly competitive. Great job. Don't forget your ribbon. All right, good sheep here in third. Very square, more boxy type, and I'm all for it. We just need to pack a little more punch inside that one to get him any more competitive in this class. He gets out-hammered from his hips back in terms of power, okay? Gets a little flatter as we study him right here. Out of the back of his cheek, we get out behind him. He runs out of inner leg shape just a little sooner than the others. But, boy, I'll tell you what, one, it's just very good in terms of his build and in quality of construction, the angles inside of him, the way that God created that skeleton. He meant for him to be good. He is. He's very good. We just need more of him, more substance and shape, specifically from his hips back to consider that one any higher in this class. I think a nice one that's, again, just complete for 4th place. He's round cage. He's good about his shoulder and neck. It ties nice and high. He's square enough in terms of hips. But still just need a little more shape, a little more power. He gets a little more upright and forward about his hock today, for me to take him into consideration any higher. We're going to round out our class. One gets just a little plainer in his look, but still, I think, a good, easy feeding kind of sheep with some rib and body today. Not quite square enough or good about his hip and hind leg or powerful enough to consider any higher, though. Put your hands together for a nice class, if you would.
Congratulations, coming back in class 5.
Good job, buddy. Yep. All right. Did a good job feeding him.
Daily gain. Class 1 progress, Lachlan Gould, Eric Streamlin, Kendall Streamlin, Kimber Gazaway, and Candace Eider. Class 2 progress, you should be in the holding area. Class 2 will be immediately followed by the progress drive.
One up on top, that's a no-brainer. You know, just no question that one needs to win. He's got some stoutness and power and just dimension to his skeleton. He's certainly shapely when we get our hands on him. I like him in terms of from his hips forward. I like that one in terms of his outline here from the side quite a bit. Hips back, he's got a little work to do. He's got to be a little squarer there. So when he gets out and going, he doesn't tuck his pins up underneath of him and kind of scoot up underneath of him on those back too. That aside, that's a very nice sheep with a bright future. I think some really good pieces there and extra stout and shapely for that size. Young man's got one that's going to go ahead and be second, long-bodied, longer-bodied even than our class winner. Not nearly as punchy in terms of power and shape. This one's rounder, hooks the pins even than our class winner. But I still think one that's just youthful and has a bright future ahead of him. Keep feeding on that one because I think he's going to get better for quite some time. Got a nice ewe lamb here to be third, long-bodied, loose spine. Again, one just not quite perfect in terms of hip and hind leg. Need a little more power and expression there. The blue-hided sheep for fourth. Again, one that gets just a little rounder up high, but still I think long-bodied and loose spine. Gets out and goes extremely well. Young man's got a black and white one here that rounds out our top five. Just needs freed up in his spine a little bit and squared up high, just a nickel more. And then you can power him up as he progresses from there. Put your hands together for a nice class if you would. That one sucks. You guys are good to go. Nice job.
From Class 1 Progress, Candace Eider and Eric Streamland. Now entering the ring is Class 2 Progress, Addie Grumley, Josie Nagel, London Gould, Layla Deeds, and Rylan Carver. This will be immediately followed by our Progress Drive. However, Class 1 breeding, you should be getting ready. Class 1 breeding, please get ready.
Really good class here. I think a really tough, a very, very close top two in this one. And what it really... There we go. And what it really comes down to is I think there's one that's just a little more here today, honestly. I think this one up front is very, very good in terms of the way he's built. I'm not going to tell you he's perfect. There's a couple places we need to improve him. But big picture-wise, I think it's very complete. He's square. He's round cage. He's really thick from behind. He handles fairly well. I'd freshen him up just a nickel, just very, very, very minor. But he's out here with one that is really, really hard handling, borderline juvenile. So I think that's where the comparative piece comes in. Yeah, why don't we? It keeps dying. I think it's a battery. But I think that's what it comes down to, and the one that wins just a little bit more here in terms of just substance, condition, maturity. I want to stretch that neck up just a little bit out of him. He gets just a little more boring there, shoulders forward. And that is the place where this one excels. There's no question. This thing's got a giraffe neck on him. Unfortunately, it ties into a longer blade and just a little more boring kind of breastplate. He gets just a little deeper for as hard and juvenile as he is in his handle. I want to see him a little freakier, shallower about that chest for that underline to be just right, because he gets just a little hard about his flank, a little hard about his rib. I'm willing to give those two places up if we can bring him into the base of his chest just a little cooler to match those, and then we'll say proportions better than the one that wins the class, and then he probably wins the class at that point. We just got to fix that underline, for him to just be right in this ring and at this day. Boy, he's so good, though, in terms of his build from there off, though. I think he's square-hipped. He's got enough juice and stoutness from behind and some handle up high. He's an absolute butthead to get shown. Some of those blue sheep are just like that. All sheep are maybe less than smart, but blue sheep, for me, are lesser than that, if we'll say it. I think that's a good one, though. Freaky pieces, keep feeding on him, get him chubby, get him burly, and I think good things will happen with him. That's just kind of how I see him today. Nice one for third. Again, just a good, complete one. In terms of squareness and looseness of spine, he gets out and goes extremely well. I like the angle of his hip and hind leg. I think it puts together, it's very well put together there. Need to stouten him up a little bit. You know, if you kind of study him here from the side, he needs just a little bit more lower cheek. And we see that when we get off behind him. Just a little more stoutness right on the inside of his leg, I think would go a long way in this sheep to get real excited about. But a good, very complete one that balances and is built extremely well. I think the one that's going to be here in fourth is long-bodied. He's tall-shouldered. He's high-necked. He gets just a little flatter about his center body, just a little too loose and just soft about his handle today to move up any higher. Going to round out with one that gets a little more off in terms of his hip and hind leg. He's got too much slope there to his hip, too much set at his hind leg. Just kind of throws him off there in motion. When we get our hands on him, there's not quite enough sheep there. We need to power him up a little more. Put your hands together for a nice class.
Coming back out of Class 2, Progress, Layla Deeds and Addie Grunley. Decider, Class 2, Layla Deeds. Followed by Eric Strimland and Addie Grunley. Again, this is our Progress Finals. Class 1 breeding, please be in the holding area. Class 2 breeding, please be in the holding area.
I don't think we need to take a whole lot more time as we bring these out
here. I think they fall right into place for me. There's one that kind of gets up on top. He's the hardest one to fault. I think he brings the most amount of substance today while being very good in terms of his build and construction quality. He's good in terms of his angles. He's square up high, round about his cage, and just kind of checks the list. We picked on him a little bit, wanting to harden him up just a nickel in terms of his handle and just stretch that front end up out of him. But boy, there's just not one out here that needs to beat him. It gets a little closer for reserve, but I think there's one that, even though he's a little outlier in terms of his type today, still one that I think is very good in terms of his construction. He's square where he needs to be, maybe a little off in terms of his underline, but still has some power and handle about him. And then a very good concluding 3 and 4. Put your hands together for all of them. I'm going to go shake this young lady's hand. She's got your champion. Nice job. Yep. It'll be reserved. Great job.
2026 champion Progress, Layla Deeds. Reserve, Addie Grunley. Now entering the ring is the start of our breeding show. Our first class is youths 2 years and older, exhibited by Alex Mertens. Lambs, you should also be in the holding area. Class 1 and Class 2 of you lambs to the holding area.
Nice class with a challenging sort here up on top, but I think at the end of the day, the young man's got one that just completes the list of things we're looking for. I think she's round and cylindrical body shape. She's square enough, really good off of her hind leg, gets out really good in motion, just really loose in her skeleton and gets out and uses her joint work to her advantage. I think she's high neck, she's slim necked, and very fresh to the touch. Just good and a refreshing, kind of sheep to see come out here in the ring. Really interesting one here in second, more moderate made, no doubt, but I think she's still very good in terms of the angles. She's square hips, she's angular and short about her blade. She comes up into the base of her chest really well for one that's that moderate. A lot of times they get just a little lower and down and push their shoulder hard, and she doesn't do that. She gets out and goes extremely well. You want to tie that neck up just a little bit higher for her to be more attractive, and then you want to give her just a little more size and scale. No matter what breed she is, I still want to see just a little more growth to her, bub. But I think that one's very, very good in terms of the angles inside of her, in terms of her skeleton. Nice one here for third. Gets a little off there from her loin, tying into her hip, but she's long-hipped and good about her hind leg. Gets just a little blander about the base of her chest. Chine to chest gets just a little plain comparatively, but long-bodied, long-made about her front third. We've got one in fourth then, gets just a little off there in terms of her hind leg, needs to pack a little more punch to her lower leg for just a little more power, for everything to proportion and blend right. She gets just a little harsher about her flank as well. Mid-rib forward, very, very good. Mid-rib back is where we need to make some improvements though, okay? Good sheep to round out then our top five. One that gets just a little lighter muscled comparatively. She gets a little flatter there right at the seam of her pants. You want to open her up, make her just a little cheekier, but big about her cage, long about her front end. Great job to these exhibitors. Let's put your hands together for them. Good job.
Receiving purple and coming back out of Class 1 of U's, Bo Hatch, Grayson Yates, and Rylan Carver. Now entering the ring is Class 2 of U Lambs, Addison Gromley, Layla Deeds, Oriah Dixon, Layla Deeds, London Gould, and Candace Eider. Again, this is Class 2 U Lambs. This will be followed by our breeding U drive, and then we will have a 30-minute break before our market drive.
Really good set of females here. And even then, I don't know that it's really close. The one up front here, holy butt cheeks, this one needs to win. All right, just lots of muscle, lots of shape, big rib, really good in terms of her outline, big square hip, high neck, lean neck, good chest, and absolutely incredible in terms of the way she uses her wheels in motion. She gets just a little tight spine, a little off, and you know, when she gets out and goes, but I really think it's her just being a butthead to handle. I think she relaxes her spine and throws that head up and gets out and goes. Man, I don't know. There's nothing going to touch her. That's a very, very good sheep with a lot of quality. Blue sheep, I think, is one that after a while and handling stuff, you just kind of step back and say, this one's very hard to fault. She belongs in the top end of this class. You know, the more you compare her against the other ones or the next two, let's say, I think she's harder to fault than them. She's square hip, she's big ribbed, she's long necked. Maybe you could tie it a little higher up into the top of her shoulder, and that's where she gets a little off for me. As we follow the line down in the back of her neck, she kind of goes a little bit more forward than even the front of her leg, let alone the back of her leg, where I'd like to see them line up. But the transition of her out of the back of her shoulder blade into her forearm is unmatchable out here in this class. She does it the best, even better than our class winner there. Just not quite as perfected there in terms of her front third and the way she's constructed. Good sheep, lots of muscle as well. The one that comes next, I think is very good and punchy about her rib, big about her muscle shape. Gets just a little off there from her loin into her hip. Maybe just a nickel soft and plain about her handle today. I want to just tighten it up and just firm it up just ever so slightly to move her up in this class and make her more competitive with that blue one. But I like her a good bit. Young lady's got a really good natty, one that gives you a killer look in terms of a tall-shouldered one that's freaky, geeky necked and just very, very sound down low. I love her, okay? I love her shallow body that she brings out here. She gets off in terms of her hip there in motion. We got to keep her hooks up, and I want to give her more rib. I just want to make her more busted open and see a little bit more just openness, just more skeletal dimension and quality there as you study her comparatively to the ones that are going to beat her. This one here even has just a nickel more to her in terms of rib shape and power today. For me, though, this one gets a little too short-backed and a little more jammed up front. Want to stretch her out. I want to lean her out just a nickel more, and I got to make that hip longer. She gets shorter hipped on me, and everything that we talk about, the length of her spine, the length of her back, the length of her neck, all of them need stretched out for me just a little bit. And I think once you do that, she probably gets out and goes just a little bit better, a little comfortably. And I think, you know, we set those things aside. She's big ribbed. She's stout-ended. This one fell into just a really tough class. She'd have done very well in the prior class. I think that's a good sheep that I think proportions very well, blends really well out of the back of her shoulder. She's got enough in terms of rib. She's a little harder in her underline. Yes, she's a little harder doing. She's just not quite as three-dimensional in her skeletal build, nor her composition and substance. But I think that's still a good sheep. It's just the toughest class, maybe the deepest class we've seen all day today. Great job to these exhibitors. Put your hands together for them.
Layla Deeds and Layla Deeds. We're now going to roll right into our breeding finals.
Showman real quick if you would. Got a really good lineup. Maybe not quite as many in terms of as that we had of market lambs, but I still think our top end here is just as good as a lot of the market lambs that we've seen. You know, and even still, out of the quality, I think there's an outlier. There's no question. One that just kind of stands out in a good way. I think she's balanced. She's tall-shouldered. She's so powerful and big-ribbed, and still just balances up extremely well. I don't know if it matters what ring you go in, whether it be a county-size fair or a local show or maybe even a national. I think this one gets looked at for a few extra minutes. And my mind was made up before they even came in. I just kind of wanted to see her and look at her again. She's a good one. This one out of their third class is your champion breeding sheep. Nice job. Yep.
Congratulations, your 2026 champion breeding, Candace Ider.
If I'm being totally honest, man, that last class was just so stacked with females and so much quality there. I don't want to take anything away from the sheep out of the prior class or even the one up front, but I think we absolutely have to stick to our guns there out of that class. We got a reserve and a third overall out of that third class. Great job, girls. Nice job.
Congratulations to reserve and third overall, Layla Deeds. Again, we will start our market drive at 11:30. If you can begin lining up about 11:20. Dang.
All right, guys, we absolutely have to start by putting our hands together here for everybody in the ring. How about our show committee who make this happen? And the sponsors behind the show, put your hands together for all of those guys too. We could not be here if it weren't for them. There's no question. I didn't really prepare anything specifically for here. I absolutely love coming here, and this is why right here. This Grand Drive is exactly why I love coming here, you guys. The quality of the sheep is top notch. You guys as showmen are incredible. You guys put on one heck of a show, but it is just so much fun to be here, and I thoroughly enjoy every opportunity I can. I will never say no to coming here if you guys want me. I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. Like I said, I didn't really prepare anything specifically to say here for this drive, but something I've been saying a lot here at these shows as we get into Final Drive. You know, as we go to these shows and as we travel together, I like to win banners as much as anybody does, believe me. You know, I like to win when we can. And once in a while we get lucky and we're able to snag a banner or two and bring them home. But on the way to our shows, when we go to jackpot shows, we usually stop at a gas station in the morning and grab chocolate donuts. It's kind of our thing. And on the way home, because we're healthy like that, we like to stop at Taco Bell. All right? Do not overlook the chocolate donuts and Taco Bell for the banners. All right? It is the time you get as family together. It is the time together, you know, that you guys can have fun and mess around at these shows and enjoy yourselves together because, man, it goes so fast. My oldest two are 14 and 15. It blows my mind that we're at that point, and that's all the time we have left in their show careers. Luckily, I have a lot of spares at home. I've got 6 kids, so I'll be doing this for a long time. But, you know, the opportunities don't last forever, you know, as youth and being able to get in the ring like this. But as much as we all love to win, don't overlook those banners, or don't overlook your donuts and Taco Bell and your family time ultimately, you know, for the banners. Yes, we want to win, but boy, it's about the memories that we look back upon. We're not going to remember if we were 3rd or 4th or grand at this show or that show 10 years ago, but we are going to remember the times we had together, messing around, having fun, and doing everything else that we do as a family. I'm glad I got through that without getting choked up because, man, it has been an absolute roller coaster here these last few weeks. I feel like I pretty well might as well write off 4th of July to Labor Day, running around judging shows and then going to our state and county fairs that we go to. We've had so much fun. We've been very fortunate and very blessed to have some success along the way, but we absolutely love it, and that's why we do it, and I hope you guys do too. That's enough about that. I think the sheep are absolutely top-notch, you guys. There's a couple, 2, 3 or more in here that hit me extra hard as they came in. And, you know, as I kind of thought back before everybody came back in the ring, I had a pretty good idea of who it would narrow down to. And even still, I think once they hit the ring, I'm like, yeah, that one absolutely has to be it. There's one that is just the creature out here for me that is just built and assembled so well. He puts together everything that I've been asking for all day, and is so hard to fault, and even has some extra pieces about him and some extra stoutness in places that make him quite elite. So I want to congratulate you guys. It has been a lot of fun. I'm going to put the microphone down and pick them the way that I see them, but I hopefully you've been able to follow along with me today. And, you know, I've said in a couple classes, maybe our cookie cutter was broken or there just wasn't one that just kind of fit all those criteria, but still I think good sheep on top of some of these classes nonetheless. Let's put our hands together one more time, guys. I'm going to go show you the champion in reserve and the ones that I like.